this was absolutely the best thing that I could have done. Hi everyone, my name is Brittany, Bajan Princess Brittany here, and in this video I want to discuss my self-taught software engineering journey. I'm a self-taught web developer slash software engineer, and I want to go over just what inspired me to go this route, what resources I used to learn about coding as well as the tech industry, how I made the jump from tutorial hell into building my own projects, my crash and burn job hunt from 2024 because that was a lot, my current phase of this journey, as well as a retrospective, what worked well for me, what didn't work well for me, and what I would do differently knowing what I do now at this point in 2025. Anyway, full disclaimer, this is specifically what I did to learn. And I know this might not be the best or most efficient way of learning for every single person out there who's hoping to become a software engineer. I encourage you to do your own research and not follow my path verbatim. Some things might be useful, but generally take this with a grain of salt just because my experience might not be the cookie cutter approach. Overall, I feel like I could have done this way more efficiently, but we will get into that as the video goes on. And another disclaimer, I fully acknowledge the rhetoric out there about software engineering. I know that a lot of people believe that AI is gonna take our jobs and that, you know, this might be a dying art, all that kind of doom and gloom stuff. I'm not here to talk about that. I still believe that I could make a great living from this knowledge, this profession. So if you want a doom and gloom video, this is not the one for you. As you know from my previous videos, I have a background in law. That's a whole degree that I have that I'm just currently not using. However, after graduating from law school, I became an entrepreneur. That has definitely been a really interesting journey that I've been on for the past almost 9 years now. However, in 2021, I decided that I wanted a different career path. I was feeling just not as inspired after the pandemic and everything. I wanted to go on a different path. I saw my mom, who's also my business partner, getting to the age where she wants to retire. I knew that it was time to start exploring other paths, other roles. I just didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. Law was not for me. I didn't want to go and take the bar exam. I've never taken the Texas bar. I just wanted to see what other options were out there, but I wasn't sure exactly what I was qualified to do. Luckily, in 2022, I made a really great friend who is a software engineer. My friend kept talking about how amazing his job was. He just seemed like he had really amazing work-life balance, and he just was genuinely passionate about his job. Anyway, after talking to him, I did some research and learned that I could learn how to do this job by myself. I did some research and realized that I could go ahead and teach myself how to code. I didn't have to go back to school if I didn't want to, and let's be real, I didn't want to. I have a ton of student loans already from law school. Going back to school is just not an option that I was willing to explore. So when I started doing research in January of 2023, the online rhetoric was that software engineering would only take a few months to learn a few basic coding languages and then ultimately get a job in the industry. I learned that this was not true, but I will get to that in a later part of this video. I started off like everyone does with a Google search in January 2023. I asked Google what software engineers actually do. I asked what coding languages were the best for a beginner with no tech experience to learn. I realized that I was more interested in the web development route, and thankfully that's what my friend did as well. And you may be wondering, why did I not choose the bootcamp route or go back to school and get a computer science degree? As I said before, I already have a ton of student loans and I just did not want to go that route again. I already have a bachelor's degree in sociology that I got years ago, and then I have a doctor of jurisprudence. It made no sense for me to go back to school to get a computer science degree as well. Just in general, I didn't want to spend a huge amount of money on this transition. I've always been good at self-studying. I have the motivation and the ambition to get things done on my own. And thankfully, I had a friend to lean on if I needed help, which I really genuinely did. So shout out to my friend Jason. You are amazing. Thank you so much for bearing with me through this journey. I decided to start with the HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and React tech stack. And for those of you who don't know, what does tech stack mean? Tech stack, according to Google, is the set of technologies used to develop an application, including programming languages, frameworks, databases, front-end, back-end tools, and APIs. With this initial Google search, Google led me to these two websites, the Odin Project, and freeCodeCamp. I started with the Odin Project from January to March 2023 thereabouts. I started their foundations course, and I really liked how this specific course talked about just the general fundamentals about the World Wide Web and how the internet works, how computers work, just all the context that I needed to really enmesh myself into this world. They talked about homebrew, they talked about VS Code, they talked about GitHub, they talked about the basics for the terminal/command line, which I had no idea was a thing before this journey. I just thought that that was something that they used in movies that looked fancy. I didn't know that that was something that I could pull up on my MacBook and instantly use. The foundations course also went over HTML, CSS, and JavaScript basics. I built really small projects along the way with them. They showed me how to set up everything using VS Code, and I pushed these to my GitHub account, and they're still on there to this day. They taught me how to see projects in my Chrome browser, which was really cool as a beginner to see like the things that I'm learning actually turning into something on the screen. After completing their foundations course, you could choose either their full stack JavaScript or their full stack Ruby on Rails path. Anyway, their full stack JavaScript course includes intermediate HTML and CSS, intermediate JavaScript, which includes DOM manipulation, object-oriented programming, and APIs. Then they go on to advanced HTML and CSS. They talk about React, databases in a very basic explanation of SQL. They talk about Node.js, and they go into very briefly a section about getting hired, talking about technical interviews, resume building, interviewing skills, etc. My fatal flaw in all of this is that I never finished this course, and you're gonna hear that a lot. My overall thoughts on the Odin Project: this was a great place to start for overall basics of what software engineering entails. There's a community that you can join if you need the help. I didn't take advantage of this though, but it's there, and I liked that it was there if I needed it. Looking at this website now in 2025, I wish I had gone through the whole course. I could see how some parts were lacking the depth that I needed in terms of more advanced topics. So the next resource I went to was freeCodeCamp. I think I started this one because I felt like I needed more help with the fundamentals, just practicing the fundamentals of HTML and CSS. I started with their responsive web design course. This course covered HTML and CSS, and they give you like their own browser environment where you could just go in and like type in code, but you don't have to worry about, you know, setting up VS Code or figuring out, you know, how to see things in your Chrome browser. Everything was right there provided for you. I think it's actually a really good resource if you're just a beginner and you want to just learn about the coding languages themselves and not just the overall setup of a web development environment. So the pros of freeCodeCamp: everything is set up for you. They give you everything in their own environment, and you just purely type in the code and see it manipulated right there on screen. You don't have to worry about installing VS Code or dealing with the terminal or anything like that. It's just right there. The cons of freeCodeCamp: I was getting stuck on problems a lot. It did encourage me to use Google, but I didn't really feel supported at all. There is a forum kind of similar to Stack Overflow where previous freeCodeCamp people would ask questions about how to solve the problems, and I definitely went and looked at that, but I found that most people just gave the answers without any sort of explanation. Anyway, I continued with freeCodeCamp's JavaScript course. Now that I'm looking at it in 2025 though, it seems like I learned their legacy JavaScript algorithms and data structures course, and I think that might be depreciated now. They have changed up a lot of things with this course, so I'm not sure if I could recommend this in 2025 just because I haven't gone through it. I do remember some things were kind of outdated though when I was taking the course to begin with back in 2023, just as compared to like other JavaScript conventions that I was looking at. So I briefly want to mention the next thing that I kind of worked on during this time: the Mimo app. So I told my best friend that I was thinking about learning how to code, and she somehow saw an ad for this app Mimo kind of floating around social media when she was browsing. Mimo reminds me of Duolingo in a way that it encourages you to gamify your learning of a different language. It's very pushy about you maintaining a streak with them every single day. There's a community there as well. I didn't explore it too much. When I was using Mimo, they offered an HTML, CSS, JavaScript type course, but then they also had a Python track as well. They also seemed to offer a remote bootcamp too, which was pretty interesting. I signed up for information about it. Ultimately, I did not pursue this path. Once again, I didn't want to spend a whole bunch of money on this coding journey. I think it cost a few $1,000s. Like once I got the information about it, it seemed like it was a few $1,000 investment, which I just didn't want to do. I couldn't find any reviews of this bootcamp online or any guarantees at all that it would help you find a job. I didn't use this app for very long either. It helped me kind of reinforce the foundations that I learned of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, but I truly don't believe that anyone could learn how to code just using an app and kind of like swiping through every day. You type in kind of snippets of code sometimes, or you select from multiple choice answers. Maybe it's better now. I haven't looked at it in years, but I don't believe that you're truly practicing anything or really studying, really like reinforcing that knowledge in your brain. But yeah, take what I say with a grain of salt. I haven't looked at this app since 2023. Maybe it's gotten better, but I haven't really heard about them, you know, in recent times. The next path I went on was with Codecademy, and I studied them from between April 2023 to maybe October of 2023. Between the Odin Project and freeCodeCamp, I realized I was having a much harder time just grasping all the concepts of JavaScript as compared to HTML and CSS. I found that I needed a lot more guidance and practice. So I started with Codecademy's free Learn JavaScript course. I like this because it took the time to really explain the concepts of JavaScript to me, and it was easier to work on their practice problems in their browser environment. So they covered like conditionals, functions, arrays, loops, objects, just all of the basic JavaScript concepts that you need to know. Ultimately, I upgraded to their front-end engineer career path course. This was a paid course, meaning that I had to subscribe to their website and pay a monthly fee. And overall, I completed about maybe 67% of this course. I didn't completely finish, but I got a good chunk of the way through. So it covers the foundations, of course, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, the command line, beginner and intermediate JavaScript, JavaScript testing with Mocha, beginner concepts of APIs and HTTP requests, React, Redux, Git, and GitHub. There's also an interview prep section that teaches algorithms and data structures, but I didn't even get to that point of this course. I feel like I got a lot of practice with the basics again. HTML, CSS, JavaScript, just like the beginner fundamentals of JavaScript. It was a great introduction for me to get into the more intermediate and advanced concepts of JavaScript, and also kind of learn more about React and APIs. They have a streak system as well too, so it kind of encourages you to get on and code every single day. The cons of this program, however, is that it was paid, and I think I was paying maybe like 70 bucks a month for this access to this course, and it took me a while to do this course as well. Maybe 4 to 5 months to get as far as I got. There are a lot of sections and a lot of different bullets to cover in this plan. Another con is that they were very like hand-holdy. I mostly did things in their browser environment. They did have parts of the course, however, that they encouraged you to set up on your own computer using VS Code, and they gave you the instructions for that. It's just that those were things that were easily bypassed, and me trying to learn as much as I could in such a short amount of time just bypassed a lot of these side projects. So my next stage in my self-taught journey is that I attempted to attend Houston Community College and take an intro to computer science class. Now this was a wild detour, I will say. I signed up for the fall semester of 2023. Ultimately, this did not work out. There's a whole story time that I could do for this later because this course was ridiculous, and I genuinely feel bad for my classmates. I mean, I dropped out of the course after a few weeks, but it was a huge mess, you guys. Long story short, I dropped out of the class after about 3 weeks or so due to the teacher's incompetence. So if you want to hear a story time about this class, leave a comment down below and I will make that for you, because that was wild. I won't use anyone's names, but that was a journey. While doing Codecademy, I saw time flying by. That was from April to October of 2023. Because of the rhetoric that I was seeing all over the internet about being able to start learning software engineering and getting a job in like 3 to 6 months, this journey seemed like it should have been easy, right? And I didn't feel like I was getting enough knowledge, enough experience in such a short amount of time. So I was starting to get a little frustrated. I started getting restless and began to do other side projects in addition to the Codecademy coursework. According to the zeitgeist on career switching to software engineering at the time, there were many people who claimed to be getting jobs within 3 to 6 months of starting their journey, which is crazy. I naively believed that I was ready to move on to more real projects and needed to start building a portfolio. My software engineer friend was also encouraging me to start building more projects. I'm so thankful that he encouraged encouraged me to build React web applications and allow him to review my code in that process. So at that time, I really looked to YouTube and other internet tutorials to start building these React projects. And this was maybe from like April to November of 2023. So of course, I didn't know where to start on my own, so I had to like look at all of these tutorials with step-by-step instructions. I started building very simple games and widgets. I did a rock, paper, scissors game. I did a to-do list. I did a memory game, you know, where you flip a card and you see where the different pictures are and that's how you win. I did a whack-a-mole game, which is really funny because, fun fact, if you didn't know, I love Disney. I don't know if you could see it, but I'm wearing a Disney shirt right now. So instead of doing whack-a-mole, I did whack-a-mickey, which was so cute. I did a breakout game. I did Frogger. I did a guess a number game. I did a quote generator, which I made magical with Disney quotes, of course. And then I did a Pokédex project, which was so cute. Shout out to my Pokemon fans out there. Another step in this building projects phase that I got into was kind of an interesting one. And I hope that I'm not like stepping on anyone's toes when I say this, but I started doing curriculum from this boot camp out there called Techtonica, and I did that from about November of 2023 to March of 2024. My software engineer friend spent some time serving as a mentor with a nonprofit boot camp called Techtonica. Techtonica's mission is to help women and non-binary people learn the skills to transition into careers in the tech industry. He shared their curriculum with me. Hopefully this doesn't get him in trouble. It's their open source repo on GitHub, and this truly helped me when I was really getting into learning React, APIs, Node.js, HTTP requests, Express, and PostgreSQL. So my full stack learning came from this Techtonica curriculum. I started working on the projects that they suggested, and these were less like tutorials and more kind of like open-ended projects where they gave me guidelines versus like step-by-step instructions. I had to kind of figure out things on my own, which was great, but I also had to hit certain benchmarks. So the projects that I completed during this phase was a Tweeter app, a front-end only Twitter clone, basically, a weather app, which was my first full stack project, and it pulled from the Open Weather Maps API, and then a contact app, which is my first full stack project where I created my own database using PostgreSQL. And I also thought about just applying to Techtonica in general. However, at the time they weren't accepting applications, so sad day. At this point, I'm gonna mention ChatGPT because that really helped me through this process. I'm not gonna lie. Having ChatGPT as a resource really helped me kind of learn some of the concepts that were like in the gray area. This is where me and ChatGPT truly became besties. It helped me fill in the blanks. Whether this is a good or a bad thing is still to be determined. So my software engineer friend connected me with another nonprofit that really helped me in the long run. Seriously, shout out to Jason. Like, I wouldn't have had these connections if not for you. The next organization I got involved with was called Cherry on Tech, and I did this from March to June of 2024. My software engineer connected me with another Techtonica mentor that he met through that program, and she suggested Cherry on Tech. As described on their website, Cherry on Tech is a volunteer-run organization that supports people of marginalized genders who are new to the tech industry. They host a cohort program that groups people interested in tech into squads, and the squads are cross-functional teams that consist of developers, UX designers, sometimes UX writers, and product managers, and you build a project over 15 weeks. I joined an amazing tech squad called the Venus Voyagers, and I contributed to our project Journey-wise. I'll put the link in the description below to where we presented this project and the actual project itself, because it's a deployed project, which is so useful for a job hunt. This was absolutely the best thing that I could have done, and I can't recommend it enough. So Cherry on Tech really helped to simulate the real life work experience for me. It showed me the workflow that I would be doing in a full-time job. It allowed me to work with fellow developers as well as UX designers, product managers. It exposed me to the tools and methods that are very widely used in the workplace, like Jira, Figma, agile methodologies, you know, doing the agile sprint thing. GitHub, just using GitHub as a team is completely different from using GitHub as a solo person doing project. And then also Notion, which I use for YouTube creation. So fun fact. I just loved how this experience gave me a complete deployed project that I could put everywhere in terms of my resume. I could talk about it in interviews. It just gave me a solid piece of experience that I could share and point to and say, I did this. And the best part is that the UX designers on my team did a really amazing job in making our project journey-wise look absolutely beautiful. Like, I loved their design and I had so much fun working on making that a real life thing. Cherry on Tech truly expanded my network as well. Before Cherry on Tech, I only had a handful of people to talk to that understood the experience that I was going through. Thankfully, I had my friend mentoring me through the process, and he also introduced me to his mentee from Techtonica. Shout out to Gia, hey! With Cherry on Tech though, I finally had people who were in the same place as me to talk to. People who were trying to transition into tech from other fields, people who haven't landed their first role yet, and it was really great to have this group of people to lean on in this time. Also, I have the Cherry on Tech Slack community as well. So all the people who went through the different cohorts over the years, as well as different mentors, they are all a resource that I could turn to in a pinch, and I'm just so grateful to have them. I had finished Cherry on Tech, and in that moment, I felt invincible. I believed that I was primed and ready to land either my first full-time role or an apprenticeship by the end of the year. Like, I was fully confident in my abilities. I had a deployed project. I had different project experience, and I felt like I had the knowledge to really just go and make an impact somewhere. Spoiler alert, I was completely wrong. So I went ahead and updated my LinkedIn and my resume just with everything that I had learned, everything that I had done. Believe it or not, this took a lot of time. As an entrepreneur, I did not feel the need to update my LinkedIn or resume at all. During the 8 years at that point that I was in the construction industry, my LinkedIn was bare bones. My resume was the same one that I had from like law school. I really had to invest the time in making both of these very important tools to landing a job up to par. So yeah, I was a small business owner. I had no incentive to really keep these things updated. Even up to now, I don't have a great professional headshot, but I'm still working on all of that. ChatGPT helped me with this a lot. I asked it to like help optimize my resume based on all the things that I've learned, all the experiences that I had. And I also had my Cherry on Tech mentor kind of look over my resume for me to see what she could suggest as improvements. So at that point, I felt really confident in applying to apprenticeships. And if you don't know, a tech apprenticeship is basically an internship for people who are like me, who don't have a traditional computer science degree. It's for people who are self-taught. They came from boot camps, and tech companies take you on, kind of like mentor you through, see if you really and truly have what it takes to work at their company, and hopefully at the end they hire you on. If not, you just got like a really great amount of experience and you were paid for it. I quickly learned that I did not have enough experience to qualify for a full-time software engineering position. I put out some applications, but I was hearing crickets. One of my Cherry on Tech developer colleagues, shout out to Millette, sent me one apprenticeship program and encouraged me to apply. It was the perfect opportunity for many reasons. It was hosted by a nonprofit that hoped to develop women and people of color in tech, which I am both of. And it partnered with a well-known brand name company that I was very familiar with. The application was essay-based, and if it's one thing I could do, y'all, is write. Thank you, law school, for that. What was great about this program as well is that it did not require a technical interview. I had tried to dabble in some Leetcode problems, but really and truly, I wasn't very encouraged to do that because they were really hard. Like, I'd seen people talking about like learning Leetcode and, you know, trying to like work the problems just in case you have an interview, but it was a very discouraging process when the easy questions were actually very hard for me. Excitingly, for this one apprenticeship, I made the first round of interviews. I thought I did really well during that interview too. I was able to speak about my self-taught journey and my experience with Cherry on Tech and everything that I've been through. I was able to draw from my law school experience. I was able to draw from my entrepreneurial experience, and I truly thought that I was a good fit for this program. Unfortunately, they took forever to let me know whether I made the cut or not. They even gave me false hope at one point. saying that like I might qualify for like another branch of their program. Ultimately, they rejected me and I was completely heartbroken. This was a very humbling experience for me. I was truly heartbroken that I didn't make it, but this was one of the many signals of how the job hunt was going in 2024 and just how the market for software engineers was changing at that time. There was a ton of competition out there and I needed to temper my expectations and find ways for me to stand out. So I spent the rest of the year looking for more apprenticeships and entry-level jobs. I applied to many things. I got rejected or I never heard back from them, unfortunately. I spent a lot of time scouring LinkedIn, Google Jobs, and other places to see opportunities, but they were very hard to find during 2024. I started 2025 determined to complete and deploy a full stack application that I've been tinkering on and off with for the past few months. And FYI, it's Disney related. Not sure if I want to get into the details of this project because I don't want someone to like straight up steal my idea. Although you can see it on my GitHub. If I decide to link that, we will see. I still believe that completing this project will help me become more attractive to employers. However, I keep getting distracted from it. Number one, I keep getting stuck on this project. This is my first time trying to implement some sort of like user authentication login process. I mean, I'm using Auth0. I've never used Auth0 before. I'm just still learning how to get all the different pieces of this right in my project. I've been focusing a lot of times on learning algorithms and data structures finally, just trying to get prepared for any technical interviews that I may come across. So what am I doing right now? I'm applying to as many apprenticeships as I can find. This still seems like the best opportunity for me currently to gain experience. Realistically, I have more chances of landing an apprenticeship role versus an entry-level role just because of one factor: experience. The downside of these apprenticeships is all the competition out there for the limited amount of slots that these companies have. I'm trying my best to just put my best foot forward and find the best way to tell my story, which is partially why I'm here. Also, I've been applying to as many entry-level slots that I feel like I qualify for. Entry-level roles have been difficult to find. A lot of these entry-level roles are targeted at recent college graduates who either have a computer science or related degree, which I don't have. Other entry-level jobs, very frustratingly, want 2 to 3 years of experience. I don't have that. I'd say maybe 95% of the internship opportunities that I have been seeing floating around out there are targeted at current college students. I found 1 or 2 that don't have that specific language in there and I have applied to them, but unfortunately I haven't heard anything. So right now I'm really and truly focused on learning algorithms and data structures. I just started a course on Udemy. I don't know how to pronounce that as well. It's the JavaScript Algorithms and Data Structures Masterclass by Colt Steele. So that has been really useful for me. I feel like the problem solving strategies that I've been learning in there have been really helpful recently. I've also been practicing easier JavaScript questions on this website called Tech. It's kind of a more gamified website where they kind of encourage you to keep up a streak every day of answering these questions, but at least it still has that kind of like Leetcode structure where it gives you like a logic-based question and you have to like pass the test cases and all that stuff. And I'm also just in general attempting to answer easy Leetcode questions on the legit Leetcode website. And you also saw me do this in a video that I posted not too long ago, Brittany versus Leetcode #1. I plan to do another one of those again quite soon. Another thing I've been attempting to do is find ways to stand out in the industry. I was listening to a podcast the other day where they were interviewing someone who landed an apprenticeship that I am currently very interested in. And she mentioned that she stood out because she wrote articles for Medium, that website where they talk about different like tech things. Also, she guest starred on a lot of different podcasts at the time, talking about her bootcamp journey. That inspired me because I'm already someone who is a creator in the Disney community on Instagram, and that's partially why I came over here to YouTube, just so I can have a place where I could talk about my tech journey, the things that I'm struggling with. Yes, I am making this video to help anyone who is on a self-taught engineering journey and needs like a more realistic view, but I'm also here to help myself, to help legitimize me, show different employers that, you know, I've been out here, this is what I've been doing, just putting myself out there as a voice in the tech space. Then of course I've been slowly working on my full stack application project. I still try to check in with this project at least once in a while. I specifically know that it's an Auth0 problem that I need to solve, so I've been looking at other Auth0 projects on and off, seeing people's open source projects on GitHub and just seeing how they approach the problem that I've been having. And I'm also consulting with the Auth0 docs as well. And I'm out here still trying to build stuff. I signed up with this organization named Chingu, who is similar to Cherry on Tech, where they assign you to a group and you work on a tech project together with a cross-functional team. My new Chingu voyage starts in May, and I'm really excited to get started with that and get to know my team. I don't know what to expect from this experience, but I'm pretty sure that I will be doing an update about it at some point on this channel. I recently volunteered for Cherry on Tech, who's hoping to update their website. I volunteered to be on that team for their website update, and I'm so excited to get back into working with Cherry on Tech just because there's such a positive and uplifting community, and I'm excited to give back to them just because, you know, I gained a lot from my experience with them. So with these two organizations, I hope to get two really amazing projects that are deploying on the web so that employers could see them and see my experience and growth. Would I have done anything differently if I started today? This is a very difficult question. I'm not exactly sure what I could have done differently. Let's go over what my options were back in January of 2023. Number one, I could have gone to get a computer science degree. Going back to school might have been a better option with more pathways that lead into a full-time job. But honestly, I just did not want to spend a dime more on my education. I already have 2 degrees and it just did not feel right for me to go back and get a second bachelor's degree. Even though it would have opened doors, it just felt like a big financial undertaking that I just did not want to do. My next option would have been boot camps. A boot camp might have been a great idea for me if I had started this journey back in maybe like 2020 or 2021. Investing $5,000 into a boot camp could have led to me probably getting hired before all the layoffs started, because at that point, like in 2020, 2021, and 2022, companies were very desperate for software engineers. I'm not sure if everyone who's watching this knows that, but that was like the big boom with tech. They were hiring like crazy and bootcamp graduates were getting snapped up. So that $5,000 was a great investment for them. However, when I started in January of 2023, the industry was already starting to go through a shift. Had I done a boot camp earlier in previous years, maybe I would have gotten hired, but I would have gotten laid off pretty quickly just because of the shift in the market. It seems like the huge influx of hires that these tech companies did back in 2021 and 2022, perhaps those are the people who got laid off. Don't take my word for it, but I've seen a lot of rhetoric out there that these new self-taught and bootcamp engineers were the ones that got laid off first in the huge layoffs in 2023 and 2024. Anyhow, the reason why I stayed clear of this route initially was because I kept seeing mixed reviews about whether these bootcamps were worth the expensive price tag. Were bootcamp graduates getting hired in 2023? Many Reddit threads were saying no. There were some theories out there about the higher rate of these boot camps, where people suggested that these boot camps themselves were hiring their own graduates to be mentors, which would inflate their success rate, their statistics. Well, you guys, my camera totally died mid-video, so I have swapped to my phone. So then my third option was the self-taught route. So I ultimately chose this one. I mean, obviously, I'm here talking about my journey as a self-taught software engineer. Could I have done this route more efficiently? I am pretty sure I could have. I would have had more patience. I jumped around a lot with different courses, different methods of studying, and up to now I have not finished any of those courses to completion 100%. Because of the discourse on the internet saying that someone who's a self-taught engineer can get a job within 3 to 6 months, I became really restless and impatient, hoping to find that miracle course that would help me understand everything much quicker, much faster, and much more efficiently. It made me kind of also speed through a lot of the things that I should have taken way more time with, such as JavaScript. And that's my next point. I wish I was more deliberate about focusing on the JavaScript fundamentals. I found that I was too caught up in building something cool that would show up in my browser. I enjoyed learning about HTML and CSS because those were things that I could immediately see, but with JavaScript, it wasn't so simple. I was really excited to get to React as well, just to have, you know, a project there in the browser. I sped through learning the remainder of JavaScript, and right now in 2025, I feel like I have to go back and relearn a lot of the fundamentals that I kind of sped through. Things like built-in methods like .map, .filter, objects, I really and truly needed to focus more on learning about objects and their properties and their methods, and just have an overall better grasp of object-oriented programming and just general problem-solving skills. Translating word problems into code is something that I really am struggling with. Like, I'm now trying to get better at. I did see some content creators giving this advice back when I first started. I didn't take them as seriously as I should have. If you're starting this journey, please listen to me and focus on the JavaScript fundamentals. Focus more on becoming a master at JavaScript before anything else. This is apparently all interviewers are looking for in the first place, not just how well you could build something using React. Lastly, I think I would prioritize Leetcode more. Building off of that last point about problem solving, I really wish I had taken Leetcode more seriously. Perhaps I should have sought help with these types of problems earlier on in my process. I knew these were important for interviews, but more deliberate study of these problems would have helped me tremendously at this point in my journey. So yes, I ultimately believe that the self-taught pathway was best for me. However, I really wish that I had the foresight to have started this journey back in 2020. Thank you for listening. Let me know if you have any questions. Like, comment, share, subscribe to my channel if you want more random tech videos like this, me talking about my personal experience. Yeah, I hope you have an amazing and magical day.